What happens when grief, isolation, and pure demonic insanity collide under one roof? You get Evil Dead Burn. And honestly, this might become the most disturbing entry the Evil Dead franchise has ever unleashed. From the very first trailer, this movie doesn't feel like a normal horror sequel. It feels aggressive, mean, uncomfortable, like it genuinely wants to torture the audience psychologically before it even starts spilling blood. And if you thought Evil Dead Rise pushed the franchise to its limit with the cheese grater scene and that nightmare elevator sequence, this new film looks ready to go way beyond that. Directed by Sébastien Vaniček, the filmmaker behind the terrifying French horror movie Infested, Evil Dead Burn, trades city apartments and isolated cabins for something even creepier: a massive countryside family estate that slowly transforms into a prison of flesh, paranoia, and violence. The story centers on Alice, played by Souhaila Yacoub, a grieving widow trying to reconnect with her late husband's family after his death. But instead of healing and comfort, she walks directly into absolute madness. And that's what makes this setup so effective. This isn't just random people fighting Deadites anymore. There's emotional tension already boiling underneath the surface before the horror even begins. These characters barely understand each other emotionally, and then suddenly they're trapped together while demonic possession starts spreading room by room. That idea alone is terrifying. The trailer suggests the movie leans heavily into psychological discomfort. Every hallway looks suffocating. Every room feels too dark. Even normal family interactions feel awkward and threatening before the supernatural chaos starts. And once the Deadites appear, everything becomes complete nightmare fuel. Now let's talk about the gore. Because this franchise has always been famous for pushing practical horror effects to insane levels. Early footage already has horror fans freaking out over what people are calling the dishwasher scene. Without spoiling anything specific, the movie apparently turns an everyday kitchen appliance into one of the most horrifying weapons we've seen in modern horror cinema. That's classic Evil Dead energy. Taking normal household objects and transforming them into instruments of pure suffering has always been part of what makes this franchise feel so brutal and unpredictable. But what really stands out here is how practical everything looks. The blood feels thick. The makeup effects look physical and disgusting. The possessed faces have that classic Evil Dead style: cracked skin, pale eyes, twisted smiles, and it all feels tactile instead of overly digital. You can tell the filmmakers wanted audiences to physically react in theaters, and honestly, that's becoming rare in modern horror. A lot of horror movies today rely too much on CGI spectacle or cheap jump scares, but Evil Dead Burn looks dirty, violent, raw, like a horror movie designed to make audiences squirm in their seats. Another thing that makes this movie exciting is the atmosphere. Sébastien Vaniček seems obsessed with claustrophobia. The camera movement constantly traps characters inside narrow spaces. Doors slam shut, corridors stretch endlessly. The house itself almost feels alive, like it's helping the Deadites hunt everyone down. That's exactly the kind of tension this franchise thrives on. Because the best Evil Dead movies aren't just bloody, they're exhausting in the best possible way. They make viewers feel trapped alongside the characters. And from everything we've seen so far, Evil Dead Burn absolutely understands that assignment. Now the big question is this: can it actually surpass Evil Dead Rise or even Evil Dead directed by Fede Alvarez? That's a huge challenge, but because those movies didn't just succeed through gore, they created unforgettable tension and genuinely shocking sequences that horror fans still talk about today. But based on these trailers and first-look images, Evil Dead Burn might have the potential to become the darkest and most vicious chapter yet. Either way, one thing is clear: this movie is not trying to play safe. It wants to traumatize audiences, and horror fans are absolutely ready for it. So, what do you think? Will Evil Dead Burn become the scariest Evil Dead movie ever made? Or do you think nothing can top Evil Dead Rise in the 2013 reboot? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this horror breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more horror movie updates.